I don't think you can really talk about which makes the best voiceover mic without including the U87 in the conversation. And some of you have asked me to compare the Lauten Atlantis to the U87. So I figured let's do that today and, maybe add a little bit more fuel to the fire over the debate over which makes the best voiceover mic. So what you're listening to is the Lauten Atlantis without the pad or boost switch on, in cardioid, in the neutral voicing. So this is the way it would sound coming out of the box. I also have it going through the SPL Channel One Mk3. Here, hold on. I'm gonna use my phone here, B-roll. So these are the settings I have going on right now. So I have everything turned on. De-esser, transient designer, tube saturation, and there's that beautiful VU meter, and we have compression going on. And we have the equalizer going on. I have a little duck at 100, basically. It's a little bit above 100, maybe about 90. So I have a little duck about 2.5 down, and that's it. There's no mid-high frequency boost or cut. And I have about 5 dB of 19K. And I have the output turned up because there's a volume discrepancy between the U87 and the Lauten Atlantis. The U87 is a little bit more sensitive than the Lauten Atlantis is in this mode. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch off everything, and we're going to start with just plain no adorned sound, unadorned sound. So let's do this.
From the mind of Mark Yoshimoto Nemkov.
All right, so this is the U87 going through the Channel 1 with all the features turned off. So it's just the preamp. Here, I'll give you a little B-roll. See, everything's turned off. No tube sat, nothing. No transient designer, nothing. So everything's turned off. Yeah, EQ's turned off. So what you're getting right here is, hold on, let me switch shots. So what you're getting right here is just the sound of the U87. And I mean, the U87 sounds great, but the U87 does need a little EQ. It does sound a little bit, especially in this booth, in a small space, and this close. So it's a little bit too much, a little too woolly in the low end. So it does need a little bit of EQ. So let's go over to the Lauten Atlantis with no EQ. And hold on, let me boost that volume. So there you go. So this is the Lauten Atlantis with no EQ, and in the default setting. And this isn't the way I use it for voiceover, but just for a comparison between them, just how they sound naked out of the box. Overall, I like this sound, but, I do think it needs a little something. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back and we're going to go to the U87. We're going to treat it the way it should. Now, the SPL Channel One Mk3 is great because it has here, let me show you the B-roll camera. It has this mic A, mic B switch, and that allows me to choose between these two mics going through the same circuit. So it's a very evenly matched comparison. However, switching between them, basically mutes the circuit for about a second or 2 seconds. So, that's what the edits in these switches for. So what we have here, I lost my train of thought for a second. So, we're going to add EQ. So let's make this sound a little bit better, the way it should. So what we're going to do is, here, let me get the B-roll camera out. All right, so what I've done is, let me take that out again. This is what happens when you don't do pre-production. All right, so here I'm going to turn the EQ back on. And so we have the air, and we have this duck. And I think actually for the U87, we need a little bit more. But this is pretty much really where I would want this to sit. And again, this has no de-esser on it, nothing on it. I'm trying really hard not to be sibilant. So let's put the de-esser on. Because I don't want to punish you any more than I have to. And let's see. There we go. So I think that's pretty good. So again, this is a pretty decent sound. I mean, it's the U87. So I think that, that classic U87 sound, that iconic U87 sound, and adding, hold on, let me just show you this again. Go B-roll camera again. So taking out the 19K, right? I mean, it sounds fine without the 19K, but I just like it with a little bit of that dialed in. I think it gives it a little bit of detail. It gives it a little bit of vibrancy without being harsh. And that's what I like about it, that little bit of air. So let's switch over to the Lauten Atlantis. And here we are with the Lauten Atlantis with that EQ setting on. And the de-esser, no transient designer. And again, I mean, this sounds pretty good, but it's not exactly the way I would use it. So let me switch the Atlantis to the mode that I use it in, which is the plus 10 dB setting. Over here on the side. All right, let me roll back that volume boost a little bit. All right, yeah, there we go. So this is pretty much right around where I would use it. I would also use the transient designer in here. So let me compare this before I put the transient designer on for both, because it does do something for both that I think you'll like. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to switch back over to the U87. So here is the U87, and I think we're starting to hear like a little bit more variance in the way they sound. I mean, the U87 is an amazing microphone. I mean, I think it's almost unimpeachable. But, you know, again, it's limited into the number of tones it can generate. You have 3 polar patterns, figure 8 and omni, which really you would probably never use for voiceover. Maybe special occasion you might use fig 8, but, you know, everything's going to be in cardioid. So here we go, a little bit of EQ, a little bit of that right there. So this is pretty much it. I can turn the transient designer on. So when I turn the transient designer on, here we go. You do that B-roll here again. So here, let me turn it off again. So this is without the transient designer, right? And I mean, you can definitely hear more of that push around 500 or so. And then when I pop that in there, just a little bit rolling off the attack, just a little bit, and just a tiny bit of sustain. And it fills it out really nicely. So let's go back to, all right, so let's switch over. And this is the Lauten Atlantis in the plus 10 dB setting with the transient designer on. Let me take that off. So this is without the transient designer. And then let me put it back in. And here it is with it, a little bit more. We probably don't need so much air up here in this setting. So that's pretty cool. But I'm going to do one more variation with the Lauten Atlantis. So let's do this. Actually, you know what? Let's do this. Let's add tube saturation. So here's tube saturation. No, wait, I need the B-roll camera again. So here's tube saturation going up. It's hard to do it. I've got the wrong hand on the camera. So there we go. All right, so a little tube saturation. Let's just put it at 50%. All right, so it brings it forward. Again, here, let's take it out. So without tube saturation, and then as I start adding it in, you can feel it. You can feel it's almost like I'm creeping up, taking 3-4 steps towards you. So there's that. Now we're going to switch over to the U87. Sorry, I'm switching over before I finish my sentence. So this is the U87 with the tube saturation in there. Starting to feel a little woolly again. Starting to feel like it needs a little bit more. So I'm going to put that 19K back in. There we go. That's better, right? I mean, that's a great sound. I like that. But overall, I mean, I want you to really focus on some of the energy that's happening. You know, in your voice, everybody's voice is different. So, but I feel like there's definitely still a little bit more of this resonance going on around 500 or so. And without the transient designer, it's a little bit thicker down there. It's almost like you feel like there's like a bulge in the sound, a low end bulge. And then when I put the transient designer in, it smooths that out. So I like that. So this is pretty much the extent of what the U87 is going to sound like going through the SPL Channel One. I've got everything turned on. I've got it pretty much, I feel like, optimized for the booth. You know, doing it within a couple of seconds here. And let's switch over to the, hold on. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to switch the Lauten Atlantis into the forward voicing. So this is the Lauten Atlantis in the forward voicing. You feel like it's really forward. It's much more in your face. And I can even take the EQ out completely. So this is with no EQ on it. Let me roll that back a little bit. So here we go. So let me pull that volume down a little bit more. All right, so there we go. So this is really, again, another tonal variation you can achieve with the Lauten Atlantis. And again, you can sculpt it however you want. So this is really, I think, kind of where it's starting to, where you're starting to get a lot more separation between them. Let me put that EQ back in. Let me roll off a little bit more low end. Right here, a little bit more 90. That feels better. Again, I don't need all that 19. So let me just show you. So we got that. I'm actually rolling it back a little bit. You know, so it's not as, there we go. I think that's a lot better. So I love the ability to do that. You know, because I think you're getting that a really nice boost here, really nice in-your-face boost. And this kind of thing is great for voiceover. So let's take that, switch back. All right. Now let's go back to the U87 again. All right, here we are back on the U87. Let me restore that 19K so you get a little bit better sense of detail between them. But I think you're definitely hearing a little less detail in the low mids. The Atlantis sounds bigger. It has a little bit more girth to it. And I don't think that one mic replaces the other per se. I think that what the Atlantis does, here, let me switch over to the Atlantis while I'm talking about it. And I think what the Atlantis does is pretty cool because there's a lot more tonal variations going on, and especially when you use these the boost in the pad switch and the different voicings in the front. So again, let me take this back to neutral. So there it is in neutral. Let me just add a little 19K. So I mean, I think that what you get overall with the Atlantis is a different mic library, kind of, really. It's a whole locker on its own. And the U87, of course, is just an icon. Just an icon. That's why it's just an icon. That's not, it's more than that. The U87, I think, really is, I think it's an essential piece of gear for voiceover. But, you know, the question is, if you're going to pick just one, which one do you pick, right? And if it comes down to, you know, all factors, the U87, I mean, of course, the U87 is an amazing mic that is way overpriced, and especially in the American market. And the Lauten Atlantis, which I think has a certain je ne sais quoi. The Lauten Atlantis is basically half the price of a U87. You could buy a stereo pair of these for the price of that. And, you know, I mean, hey, different horses for different courses, right? What works best for you? I'm just doing a comparison between them. I'm not going to render a judgment as to which one is better. That's up to you because, you know, it's your voice, it's your recording. What do you work with? You know, what do you want? So, you know, and again, if we're talking voiceover, you got to include the U87. So what do you think overall, right? What do you think of the Lauten Atlantis versus the U87? Do you have a favorite? You switch over one last time. Let me know like what details that you feel are important about these sounds. All right, so let's nitpick it. And then leave a comment. I'm going to switch over one last time. So going to be a lot of edits in this one. So, you know, leave a comment and let's have a conversation about it. All right, Lauten Atlantis, U87. What do you think? All right, until next time, this is Mark Yoshimoto Nemkov, fading to black.